Hello and welcome to another episode of Just Roll With It, a board game review channel, where today we're going to be taking a look at Bureau of Investigation, which is a cooperative game by Space Cowboys. For 1 to really however many players, but realistically probably like 2 or 3, up to maybe 4, anything more than that, well... I know what it says on the box, but realistically I don't know that you'd want 8 people staring at this. But I'm joined today by Sam, and I am Jordan, and before we get into the review, let's take a quick second to talk about generally how the game plays. Do a quick overview of that.
Alright, so this game is basically played where you have a casebook and a newspaper, and that's pretty much all you get. Inside of the casebook, there will be, right at the beginning,
notes.
A little introduction that'll tell you some general information on what the case is, and then that's pretty much all you get. And off of that, you have to investigate various locations that are all numbered in areas. So like we've got the southeast sector here, and the west central sector, and things like that. And then there's numbers inside of each of those. And this casebook will have all of those laid out in the specific sections, so they'll be labeled by section and number, and you'll investigate those places by opening to that page in the book. And then you have a newspaper, and this just gives additional information that you can figure out for the case.
Mm-hmm. And you essentially have a certain number of days. The game will give you a certain number of days, and days are represented by like how many leads you investigate. So when you go to a location, that's considered a day. And there are ways to get more days, correct?
Yes.
I guess it depends on the scenario, but you can get more days depending on the leads you go after. There's also no... there is a solution, but the way that you end it, you just sort of decide when you're done investigating, and then it will ask you like 5-6 questions at the end. You answer those questions, and then you see how well you did, because there's kind of like side missions and things you can do. So like in the first one here, there's a missing person that's completely unrelated to like the main case, but if you solve that, if you find the correct solution to that, then you can get some extra points for your score. That doesn't really matter. You're just trying to answer as many things as well as you can based on the information you have.
So basically at the end of the case, you'll give 3 separate locations that you want to like stake out at the end. Mm-hmm. And that's what will be considered the locations that you used for scoring. And only certain locations will give you the points. Most of them will give you nothing for the most part.
Yeah, so I think that covers the general overview. There's not a whole lot mechanically with this game. It's more of a puzzle than anything. We can get on to the review. What did you think of Bureau of Investigation? We've for the record, we've played the first case fully, and we did pretty well. But I looked. The box includes 6 total cases as well. But yeah.
So
Sorry.
I definitely enjoyed it as we played it, and I personally think I just generally like the theme better than the Sherlock games, which I'd also enjoy just generally. As books go, I enjoy both Sherlock and Arkham things to some extent. But I specifically enjoyed this in this format better than I did the Sherlock games, because it gives you a bit more story, because you can have those fantastical elements that make it a little bit more interesting when it comes to investigating things. And I just generally, I don't know, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so for the record, this is made by the same company who makes the Sherlock Holmes consulting detective games. I think it even says that, on the front of the box. Very similar gameplay, but actually slightly different, which I was kind of surprised by. I kind of expected it to just be a Lovecraft version of the Sherlock Holmes consulting detective, but it's a little bit different. Obviously, you're not competing against Sherlock, because that's a big thing in the Sherlock Holmes one. Is you're like a Sherlock's assistant investigator, like deputy investigator, and you're basically trying to get to the conclusion in fewer, essentially like guesses, leads than Sherlock, which is very difficult. But this one it definitely plays differently. It's been a while since we've played the Sherlock one. but I like the way that this one is basically you get a certain number of guesses you can take. Again, days in the investigation, which is a cool like thematic way of doing it. Like you have, you need to have something by a certain number of days, and then if you trigger certain events, you can get more days. Where the game, like the police chief or whatever, might give you a few more days to look into something. And like you said, I like the theme in this one a lot. Each of the cases is definitely like very different thematically. Like there's one about like an Arctic investigation, and there's like a jungle one, which again we haven't done. I'm looking forward to playing some more of these, but I like that. I also like this numerical system that they have. I can't remember. Is it the same for Sherlock? I
believe so.
Is it the same? Yeah. Okay. I was trying to remember all the differences because it's been a while since we've played the Sherlock one. I like the solution a lot too. The way that you're basically trying to answer or choose 3 locations that you want to stake out. So there's basically multiple good. Well, they're not equal in terms of how good the answers are, but like you can get a few things wrong and still like succeed. There's obviously like a couple of very specifically correct answers, but there's also answers that are like worth a couple of points.
Like you can technically get the actual main investigation that you're doing wrong, and if you got other guesses that were all side investigations, you can, I think, still complete the scenario.
Yeah.
So,
and obviously, no matter what, you can only play it once. So, I mean, there's that. But it's kind of nice not having that, like... There's still a ticking clock element with the number of days, but I like that you're trying not to get as few as possible, which you are with Sherlock, for bragging rights. You can obviously use them all, but in this one, like, there's no reason not to use all the days. There's you basically stop whenever you feel comfortable with the leads you have, and then you say, yep, I think we should stake out these 3 places, and then you read the text that says what happens when you stake out those 3 places, and then you get like a number score. Again, kind of like the Sherlock one, but I like that. It's subtly different. Like it's not, this is still essentially the same game as the Sherlock one, but there's those little changes that give you some of those differences. The other kind of cool thing is we haven't played a lot of the second one, but there is like a time element. So there will be like different numbers that you go to based on certain events that happen. So if, without spoiling anything, there's an event that happens early on in the second case, and if you can do things before that event at the same locations, and then afterwards it's just like different numbers. You add
a certain 100 to every
number, you add 100 to every location that you want to visit after that point, so that the game actually kind of knows what big event has happened and characters can react differently, which is kind of cool without having to do like an app or anything. Which I like that. That's kind of a cool idea. That at least as far as we've done in the Sherlocks, I don't think there's anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
As far as I know, Don, who's also played a lot of the Sherlock ones, a lot of different ones than we have, I think said that there's no like day and night or different time like event things, so that's kind of a cool concept. I really enjoyed the first one, the first scenario. I can't imagine they get any worse from here, or any, that the quality is any worse or anything, so I think I would definitely recommend this. Like I said, I like the theme a little bit better, nothing against Sherlock, but yeah, like you said, like there's that extra flavor. And I don't want to spoil anything in the first case, but it seems like the cases are all based on different actual Lovecraft stories, like popular ones. And at the end of them, when you do the resolution, it's kind of cool. It'll give you like basically like the not references, but kind of like story. Like if you liked this, you may like these Lovecraft stories and things, which is kind of cool.
Like I think this one gave us like 3 random, like not random of course,
well,
but
yeah.
random Lovecraft stories that applied to the case basically. So like they've
and if you're familiar with the mythos and some of the short stories, like you can, it's not that you'll be able to solve the crime, but you can kind of pick up on it, because I picked up pretty quickly on what the like antagonist was. I was still kind of far off on what the actual story was, but like you can pick up on like the monsters and things and kind of like, oh okay, like so your knowledge of the mythos can help you a little bit in that regard. But yeah, there's a lot going on. There's definitely like a lot of twists and turns, even in the first case. Like we went like all over the place. Like there was all kinds of stuff going on, and like I said, there was like also a story, side story about a kidnapped child that you could also try to solve. Which we did not at all. We did not do so great there. But the newspapers are a really cool touch. That's obviously in the Sherlock games too, but I just think it's really cool that you can look through the newspaper and find leads and find useful information about like current events and things that are happening at the time of the case, and use that to sort of like piece things together. It gives it that like realistic feel that that board games can do, like the tactile feel that you wouldn't get if it was like a video game or app assisted thing. You get that like tactile, digging through the directory as well. You have the Massachusetts directory that has like all the businesses and things in it, alphabetically. It's like a phone book. That's really fun to go through too. If you have a name, you can like find where the person lives, and it's just, I don't know, it's little things like that make it feel like really fun and immersive. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I'm glad we got this one, or that you got this one. Cool. Well, I assume you would recommend it.
Yes.
Yeah. Out of 10, what would you give it? That's tough, because it's not really mechanically a game.
Yeah.
But it is still a lot of fun. And it definitely doesn't feel like it takes 4 hours. Because I know we were playing it last time for a long time. And it is really fun making those connections and things too as you're like writing down. Strongly recommend pen and paper and writing things down as you go, because there's a lot of stuff. These are all of our notes from last time, because there's a lot going on. But it is really satisfying, like pacing around and making those connections and figuring out where to go next. So I would give it probably like, just judging it on its own, like a 9 or an 8. I don't typically give things 10s. So I don't know. I think in and of itself, having only played the one, I'd give it a solid 8, which is what I give a lot of things. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
That's funny, because I was actually generally thinking the same thing. So 8 or 9, I'll probably give it like 8 3/4.
Sure. And that could go up too. I mean, playing more, we've only played the first scenario of 6, which honestly is quite a few, especially because they take like 4 hours a piece. Cool. 3 C's, comprehension, complexity, consideration. This is not a rating system in terms of quality. This is purely an attempt to help people understand if the game is right or wrong for them. And so, like, complexity is going to be the overall difficulty it is to understand the mechanics and play them. Comprehension is going to be how long it takes you to really understand those mechanics. And then consideration is going to be mostly like time it takes you on your turn, how many options you have. Things like analysis paralysis would be like high consideration for what you can do on a turn. Obviously, this doesn't really have turns, so that one will be a little bit tricky, but that's kind of a general overview of our 3 C's system. And we'll like determine together a score, because it's supposed to be kind of an objective score to determine if a game is right or wrong for you. So the order really doesn't super matter. Complexity. I'd say
I feel like for these, yeah.
It's pretty low. I mean,
Yeah.
It has a rule book, but I think it's like 6 pages long.
I don't think I even read it, because of course I've done the
5 pages long.
one, yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. This is less of the 3 C's don't work as well for this, because it's not really a board game. Yes, it's a tabletop game, but it's more of an interactive story.
Yeah. I definitely say there's like some things that you need to remember to generally, but
yeah, so
it's pretty much straightforward, I'd say.
So complexity, like, and we're talking purely mechanical complexity, not like story and puzzle, solution, because obviously that's much higher. Probably like, I don't know, 2.
Yeah, 1 or 2.
Honestly. 1 or 2, yeah. Let's go 1.5.
There you go.
consideration, this is probably going to be pretty high. Though it doesn't have turns, because usually consideration is like what you do on your turn. This doesn't have turns, it's just however many leads you want to go on. But this is going to be pretty high consideration. There's a lot going on. There's a lot you have to remember and think about and write down. There's a lot of like discussion that happens around it. Like I said, a scenario probably takes like 3-4 hours. You could go faster than that, you could go slower than that. It's really, you play at your own pace, but I would say like typically you're probably looking at least 2 hours.
Because I know for some of our leads, we take plenty of time in between to like discuss things and figure out like what you're doing, because it's kind of a group decision on where you want to go.
Yeah, especially as you get towards the end of how many days you have and you really start going like, okay, where are we at? What else do we have? What else do we want to look into? What do we want to prioritize? So I'd say pretty high consideration. I mean, I think you're looking at like a 4. Like, I think of all the games we have, this is definitely one of the higher ones, just because of how much stuff is going on.
Yeah,
I agree with like a 4.
Yeah.
So we did consideration, we did complexity, comprehension. I would say is probably also pretty low in terms of comprehending the game. Like probably like a 1.
Yeah.
Because like again, you're basically just deciding where you want to go and and taking notes. There's not really much to comprehend here. A lot of the the difficulty and the consideration comes from engrossing yourself in the story and learning the game. So like a 1. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, that's. Do you have anything else to add? All right. Well, that's our review of Bureau Investigation. Both really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to playing more of this. Thanks so much for watching, and if you would, please like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. It really helps grow the channel. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments of how, if you've played this game, how you enjoy it, if you like Sherlock better, if you like Bureau of Investigation better. Personally, I'm leaning more towards Bureau of Investigation, but they're both fantastic games. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Until next time.